Good vibes. Very Well, most of my peers and friends, both Kenyan and non-Kenyan, are often shocked when I tell them that my family plans to move back to Kenya permanently. It's something I talk about extensively in my YouTube channel. People always ask me why, when are we leaving, and what about this, what about school, what about kids, what about work, and all kinds of questions. So this is an ongoing conversation that I don't think we'll be able to nail down in just a few videos. Now it turns out that not only Kenyans moving back, but even native-born Americans leave America. I'm not saying this is a major phenomenon. In fact, I suspect the number of Americans leaving America is probably small, something you can easily look up. But yes, non-Americans leave, and even native-born Americans leave, some of them actually permanently, to the point where they give up their citizenship. So in this video, I'm going to continue this ongoing conversation, but I'm going to particularly focus on some of the reasons why people would be willing to leave behind the mythical American dreams. And this is not only applicable to Africans that are coming back, I'm also including reasons that I hear most often cited by Americans who have decided to move to other countries and seem to be doing quite well out there. Now, keep in mind that in truth, the majority of us who come to the US are often first drawn over here by the allure of this dream. So in this video, I'm going to talk about three things. First, I'll talk about my understanding of the American dream. Second, I will talk about why people are often shocked when we talk about this topic. I hear all kinds of reasons. And then lastly, I'll share some of the reasons why I think it's okay to leave this dream behind. Welcome to Karating, folks. Again, if you're visiting with us for the first time, we are filming from the middle of Karating, which is a village in Kisumu, town in western part of Kenya. If this is your first time watching our content, try and watch it till the end. If it does interest you, be sure to subscribe. But even if you don't, I hope you come back and watch us as a regular viewer. And hopefully someday we'll be able to convince you to subscribe. Now, before I unpack all of this, I must say that honestly, up till a few years ago, I never thought I'd be really thrilled about the prospect of moving back permanently. Mostly because, for one, I have invested so much of my adult life in the US. Like many folks that move in the US, literally half of my life, adult life, has been in the US. I've been educated here. I got married here. I've got kids here. I still work here. I've got quite a few financial commitments that keep me here, things like mortgages and all that stuff. And of course, there's no doubt about a few of the Western comforts that I've gotten accustomed to. And even more, at the time that I left Kenya, I had this perception that home, especially Karating, was mostly a holiday destination. Because as some of you have known from my previous videos, I was actually born and raised in Oyugis, which is a small town further west in Kenya. But my real home is in Karating, in Kisumu. And so Karating, for the most part, my entire childhood was more like a reserved place for holidays and funerals, and maybe things like disco matanga. Now, disco matanga is a Swahili term. I'm not sure I know how to accurately translate that, but if you're an American, I would just simply say this is prom, village style, but it is prom that has adults and kids mixed up in it. Anyway, somebody who knows how to translate disco matanga can help us with that. Now, again, growing up as a kid, in the village, we didn't have a lot of modern comforts like electricity or running water, and not everywhere. That was very specific to my corner of the village. Other villages had power and it was not a big deal. And so these things didn't mean a whole lot. And when I left Kenya to the US, I was still fairly young. I was in my early 20s. And at that time in life, for most folks, our priorities are very different. I was focused on going to school, trying to set up a career, getting married. And of course, I really bought into the Hollywood version of the American dream. Mostly after watching lots of American TV shows and music and all things like watching Coming to America, The Jeffersons, The Bold and the Beautiful, The Rich Also Cry, Passions, and lots of Disney stuff. So I was really, really sold onto the Hollywood version of the American dream. And over time, I've actually learned that America is really good at exporting their culture. And of course, with that comes limited knowledge. At the time I arrived in America, I had never seen anybody who had relocated back home. There's only one guy, and I think that must have been a guy called Dede or something like that, who moved. I'm not sure what the circumstances were, but I remember feeling very disappointed to know that he moved from the US back to Kenya, and that was it. But I'd never seen anybody who had moved back. The goal was mostly to do what we call loss of task, stay in America for as long as you could, because staying long in America meant you were successful. In fact, I'd never met somebody who just moved back and became successful in the village. The few people that returned came as cargo, or there's one older gentleman who was deported. So returning to Kenya was never in the picture at all. But of course, over time, things change. As I've grown older, the things I care for have really changed. For example, right now, above and beyond anything else, I really value quality time with my family, both my immediate family and my bigger family back in Kenya. And quality time for us typically happens in the village. When we're in this space, we often have a lot of good time. I've come to really value experiences that don't include stress. At home, I have very minimal stress, which is not the case when I'm in America. And of course, the good food, the fresh food, the organic food that is plenty everywhere, every day. And over time, the village has really become so much better, to the point where, as you can see from this video, almost every modern comfort that I have in my home in Long Beach, California, is available for me in the village. And so the distinction between what I can find in my home right here and what's available in California is limited. That is as far as what's available within the house. And so when I came to the US, I had this, my understanding of the mythical American dream has sort of evolved. But here's how I see it even now. I see it more like, I would say that the American dream is the idea that anyone, regardless of their background, can actually achieve success and some form of upward mobility, regardless of their circumstances. This is a place where second chances happen. And this was often sold in the form of people owning homes, having a good job, and being able to provide for your family in the best way possible. Things such as belief in meritocracy, things such as personal freedom really, really meant a whole lot. And so that was just what I understood the American dream to be. But what we didn't know at the time is that this dream often eludes so many people because of so many barriers that you're never told until you arrive here. And so when I tell people that I'm moving back permanently with my family, they're shocked in part because they know the amount of work it's taken to get here in terms of just getting visas from Kenya to going through school to becoming a US citizen. They know how hard, how expensive that process is. And they also understand that there are many people in Kenya and in Africa that still have a desire, lots of desire, to make it to America and just get some of what we already have. That is the capacity to live in the US legally. And of course, a few of them have a limited or a different view of what home is. Many of them still think that home is just full of suffering and people living with problems and hurts and all that. But as you can tell, I think we at home we can live just fine. So here's why I think it's okay to leave behind the American dream. Number one, uh, as I mentioned earlier, yes, lots of people get to achieve the American dream. And I think to some degree we have experienced it. But a lot of people also fail at it, despite all the hard work they put in. Because America is one of those places where one small thing could easily turn your world inside out. As I've said before, many of us are only a paycheck or two away from literally being homeless, something that would never happen in the village. If I had no money in the village, I would never be homeless. I cannot imagine a scenario of that sort. And America can be very unforgiving because your records follow you. Every single thing you do, once it's documented somewhere, it'll follow you. Unlike Kenya, where even if you make mistakes, you can always just skip by and just do well, regardless of your background. And of course, we've talked about issues of loneliness. And sometimes the most strange form of loneliness is loneliness where you are surrounded by people, but you still feel very lonely. In fact, some people joke that America is a 3-star hotel that will cost you the price of a 5-star hotel. And in response, I say that perhaps Kenya is a 2-star hotel that'll cost you about the price of 1 star. So what would you rather? And then, of course, the issue of American passport. Many people erroneously think that the American passport is probably one of the top passports in terms of global mobility. Because some of us love traveling, some of us love to move from places to another. Now, the most recent report from the numbered passport index shows that the US passport ranks number 44 at the same level as Brazil, way below Argentina and Chile. And so the American passport, while opens up so many doors, it can also be very restrictive. Like, I can't just pick up my American passport, buy a ticket, and go to Cuba. I would probably get in trouble. So there's a process and so many restrictions that goes with that. In fact, sometimes in some countries, walking with an American passport also puts you in danger in those places. And then, of course, the issue of taxation. America really is one of the only countries in the world that taxes its citizens regardless of where they live. Now, the IRS, which is the tax authority in the US, has some kind of benefits that help with that, but you will still pay taxes no matter where you live as an American. In other countries, they don't do that. If you don't live in the country, there's all kinds of provisions to allow you to live without double taxation. So the ultimate question really is it really worth it? And can you actually achieve the same dream outside without all the perils that come with living in America? Well, I hope these questions are provocative enough, and I'd love to hear your comments regarding the answers to those questions. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.